My name is David, and for 6 years, I thought invisible dedication was a virtue. I was first in at 6:30 a.m., last out at 9 to 10 p.m., working weekends and holidays at Morrison Associates, a project management consulting firm where I was senior project coordinator but essentially kept everything from falling apart. I managed our biggest client, Pinnacle Industries, $2.8 million annually, fixed crises without credit, and trained junior coordinators who got promoted while I stayed in the same position. My supervisor, Marcus Hoffman, took credit for others' work and made people feel small. My 7-year-old daughter, Emma, had her ballet recital scheduled for 4 p.m. Thursday. I needed to leave at 3:30, so I sent Marcus a professional email Tuesday, worked late all week to stay current, and prepared detailed handoffs. Wednesday, I confirmed in person. Marcus dismissed my request, claiming we were busy with a proposal that was actually completed weeks ago. Marcus, I've worked late every night this week. I haven't taken a personal day in 8 months. That's your choice, David. No one's forcing you to work late. I'm going to attend my daughter's recital. All my work is current. Marcus leaned back with a smirk. You know what, David? Do whatever you want. You're not that important anyway. He said it loud enough for the entire open office to hear. 20 co-workers witnessed their operations director publicly dismiss a 6-year employee as unimportant for wanting to attend his daughter's school event. The silence was deafening. No one spoke up. I understand, I said calmly. Thank you for clarifying my value to the organization. I returned to my desk and continued working. But inside, something fundamental had shifted. Marcus had just made the biggest mistake of his management career. Before we dive into this story of workplace disrespect and the perfectly calculated revenge that followed, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment about your own workplace experiences, and subscribe for more stories of people who refuse to let toxic bosses destroy what matters most. Trust me, you won't believe how this ends. That evening, I drove home with Marcus's words echoing, "You're not that important anyway." 6 years of proving my importance through managing our biggest client, training staff, working weekends. Apparently none of that mattered when I asked for 30 minutes to watch my daughter's ballet. Lisa was cooking dinner while Emma practiced her routine in the living room, spinning with pure joy. How was work? Lisa asked, reading my expression. I told her about Marcus's public dismissal. Her expression darkened with each detail. He said that in front of the entire office? That's hostile work environment behavior. I'm going to attend Emma's recital, I said, watching my daughter practice. And then I'm making decisions about my future. That night, I reviewed 6 years of documentation, brought in $1.8 million in new clients, saved 4 major accounts, trained 12 employees, 7 now promoted, implemented 35% efficiency improvements. On paper, I was exactly the employee any company would want to retain. I researched my market value. Competing firms offered 40% more salary plus advancement opportunities Morrison never provided. I'd been so loyal I'd never explored my worth. More importantly, Emma was watching. Did I want her to learn that dedicated people should accept poor treatment? Or that her father valued himself enough to demand respect? Thursday, I left at 3:30 p.m. Marcus looked at his watch pointedly but said nothing. At the recital, Emma ran to me. Daddy, you came. Of course, sweetheart. Some things are more important than work. Emma performed beautifully, beaming with pride. Marcus's insult had actually done me a favor, forcing me to confront that I'd let people treat me as unimportant because I'd never demanded importance. Over dinner, Emma said, I'm proud of you, Daddy. You came even though you had to leave work. That means I'm important to you. Her simple statement hit harder than Marcus's insult. She understood instinctively that showing up for people demonstrates their value. That night, I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. I made 3 strategic phone calls that night. First, Rebecca Martinez, a recruiter who'd contacted me months earlier. Your timing is perfect, she said. I'm working with 3 firms looking for senior project managers, management roles with significantly better compensation. Sterling Consulting, a direct Morrison competitor, had been trying to win the Pinnacle Industries contract for 2 years. When I explained Marcus's public humiliation, she said, "That's unacceptable behavior, but might be the best thing for your career. You've been significantly undervalued." Second, Patricia Williams at Pinnacle Industries. "I'm exploring opportunities with other firms," I told her. She was direct. "Pinnacle's relationship with Morrison has always been with you personally. If you make a change, I'd want to understand whether your new firm could serve our consulting needs." Exactly what I'd hoped to hear. Third, Tom Bradley, whom I'd trained. After explaining my situation, I warned him about potential disruption. "I manage 60% of our major client relationships. If I leave, Morrison will discover exactly how important I actually am." Over the weekend, I researched Sterling Consulting. Excellent reputation, rapid growth, seeking manufacturing expertise. Tuesday, Rebecca called with details. Sterling offered $25,000 signing bonus, 45% salary increase, $98,000 versus my current, $68,000, and equity participation. Wednesday, I met managing partner Robert Chen. His culture philosophy stunned me. "We hire adults we trust to manage responsibilities professionally. If someone needs to attend their child's school event, they attend. We measure results, not office hours." The role: senior project manager with clear path to director within 18 months. That night, I accepted Sterling's offer. Friday morning, I placed my resignation letter on Marcus's desk. "Today is my last day." "You can't just quit without notice." "Marcus, 2 days ago you told me I wasn't important. I'm simply agreeing with your assessment." I left at exactly 5 p.m., something I'd never done in 6 years. The real surprise was waiting for Marcus on Monday morning. Over the weekend, I finalized arrangements with Sterling Consulting and prepared for what would be the most satisfying Monday morning of my career. But first, I had one more conversation to complete. Sunday evening, I called Patricia Williams at Pinnacle Industries. "Patricia, I wanted to follow up on our conversation from last week. I've made my career decision." "I was hoping you'd call. What's the news?" "I've accepted a senior project manager position with Sterling Consulting effective immediately." "Sterling?" "David, that's excellent news. I've heard great things about their operation." "Patricia, I also wanted to discuss Pinnacle's consulting needs and whether Sterling might be able to serve them." "David, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Pinnacle's consulting relationship has always been with you personally, not with Morrison Associates as a firm. If you're at Sterling now, that's where we want our business to be." "Patricia, I appreciate that confidence, but I want to make sure this transition is handled professionally." "Of course. David, I'll be calling Morrison tomorrow morning to inform them that Pinnacle is terminating our consulting agreement, effective immediately. We'll be engaging Sterling Consulting for all future project management needs." "That's a significant decision, Patricia." "It's a business decision, David. We work with people who understand our needs and deliver results. That's you, regardless of which firm you work for." Monday morning, I was sitting in my new office at Sterling Consulting. Corner suite, actual windows, and a coffee machine that made coffee you'd voluntarily drink, when Rebecca Martinez called. "David, how's your first day going?" "Incredibly well. Robert has me meeting with potential clients this afternoon, and I'm already working on building the manufacturing practice." "That's great. David, I have to ask, how do you think your former employer is handling your departure?" I looked at my watch. It was 9:30 a.m., which meant Marcus had probably just arrived at the office and discovered my empty desk. "Rebecca, I imagine they're having a very educational morning." I was right. At 9:45 a.m., my personal phone rang. Marcus Hoffman's name appeared on the caller ID. I let it go to voicemail. At 9:47 a.m., he called again. At 9:50 a.m., the receptionist at Sterling Consulting knocked on my office door. "David, there's someone on the main line asking for you urgently. A Marcus Hoffman from Morrison Associates. Please take a message. I'm in meetings all day." At 10:15 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah Martinez. "David, Marcus is freaking out. He's been calling your phone all morning and asking if anyone has your contact information. What's going on?" At 10:30 a.m., another text from Tom Bradley. "David, did you really quit on Friday? Marcus is in panic mode and Patricia Williams from Pinnacle just called asking to speak with him directly." At 10:45 a.m., my phone rang again. This time it was Patricia Williams. Patricia, how did your call with Morrison go? About as expected. David, I informed Marcus that Pinnacle was terminating our consulting agreement and that we'd be working with Sterling Consulting going forward. How did he react? He tried to convince me that the service level wouldn't change, that they had other qualified project managers, that this was an emotional decision on my part. And I told him that Pinnacle's relationship had always been with you specifically, and that we were following our preferred consultant to his new firm. What did he say? To that? He asked if there was anything Morrison could do to retain the account. I told him that ship had sailed when they publicly dismissed their most valuable employee. Patricia, you didn't have to mention that. David, word travels fast in our industry. People talk. The story about what happened at your office last week is already making the rounds among CFOs. That was news to me. What story? About Morrison's operations director publicly calling a 6-year employee unimportant for wanting to attend his daughter's recital. David, that's the kind of management behavior that makes clients question a firm's judgment. I hadn't expected the story to spread beyond Morrison's office, but apparently workplace humiliation stories had a way of traveling through professional networks. Patricia, I hope this transition won't cause any problems for Pinnacle's operations. Are you kidding? We're thrilled. We get the same excellent service from someone we trust, but now we're working with a firm that actually values their employees. That tells us something about their judgment and priorities. At 11 a.m., I received a call from Robert Chen. David, I just got off the phone with Patricia Williams at Pinnacle Industries. She wants to schedule a meeting this week to discuss their consulting needs. That's great news, Robert. David, she also mentioned that Pinnacle represents $2.8 million in annual consulting revenue. Is that accurate? That's correct. And they're following you from Morrison to Sterling? They're choosing to work with Sterling Consulting, yes. Robert was quiet for a moment. David, do you realize what this means for our manufacturing practice? It means we're off to a strong start. It means you've single-handedly established Sterling as a major player in manufacturing consulting. One client relationship just transformed our entire growth strategy. That afternoon, I was reviewing Pinnacle's project requirements when Sarah Martinez called my personal phone. David, I hope it's okay that I'm calling you. Of course, Sarah. How are things going? Honestly, it's chaos here. Marcus has been in emergency meetings all morning, and word is spreading that Pinnacle terminated their contract. I'm sorry to hear about the disruption. David, can I ask you something confidential? Sure. Are you happy with your decision to leave? Very happy. Why? Because Jennifer and I have been talking, and we're both wondering if Sterling might be hiring additional project coordinators. That was a conversation I hadn't expected, but it made sense. Sarah and Jennifer were both talented professionals who'd been watching the same patterns I'd experienced. Limited advancement opportunities, management that took good people for granted, and a culture that didn't value work-life balance. Sarah, Sterling is definitely growing. What's prompting your interest? Watching how Marcus treated you was a wake-up call. If he can publicly humiliate someone with your track record, what does that say about how he'll treat the rest of us? That's a fair concern. Plus, David, we've learned a lot working with you over the years. If you're building a new practice at Sterling, we'd love to be part of it. Sarah, I'll definitely discuss potential opportunities with Robert. Sterling values people who understand client service and have strong work ethics. That sounds like everything Morrison isn't. By the end of my first day at Sterling, I'd had similar conversations with 3 former Morrison colleagues, all expressing interest in making a change. But the most satisfying call came at 5:30 p.m., just as I was preparing to leave my new office at a reasonable hour. David, this is Marcus. We need to talk. Hello, Marcus. What can I do for you? David, this situation with Pinnacle is unacceptable. You can't just steal our clients when you leave. Marcus, I didn't steal anyone. Pinnacle made a business decision about who they wanted to work with. This is industrial sabotage, David. You deliberately undermined our client relationship. Marcus, I provided excellent service to a client for 4 years. They chose to continue receiving excellent service from someone they trust. That's not sabotage. That's business. David, I want you to call Patricia Williams and convince her to reconsider. Tell her this was a misunderstanding, that Morrison can provide the same level of service. Marcus, let me stop you right there. I'm not going to tell a client that Morrison can provide the same level of service because we both know that's not true. What do you mean? I mean that you don't understand Pinnacle's business. You've never managed a major client relationship, and you just lost the person who did understand those things. David, this is ridiculous. Anyone can manage a client account. Really? Marcus, tell me about Pinnacle's Q3 operational challenges. What process improvements did they implement last quarter? Who are their key suppliers? And what cost management initiatives are they pursuing? Silence. Exactly, Marcus. You don't know any of that because you never took the time to understand our most important client relationship. David, I'm warning you. You're warning me? Marcus, last week you told me I wasn't important. Today, you're learning exactly how important I was. The irony is beautiful. I hung up and turned off my phone. That evening, over dinner with Lisa and Emma, I felt more relaxed than I had in years. Daddy, you seem different, Emma said, looking up from her spaghetti. Different how, sweetheart? Happier. Like when you came to my recital. I smiled at her. You're very observant, Emma. I am happier. Sometimes when something bad happens, it helps you figure out what you really want. What do you really want, Daddy? I want to work for people who respect me, and I want to show you that it's important to stand up for yourself when people don't treat you well. Like how you left your old job? Exactly like that. Lisa squeezed my hand under the table. I'm proud of you, David. For the first time in years, you seem like yourself again. That night, I realized that Marcus's insult had been a gift. It had forced me to stop accepting less than I deserved and start building something better. Tomorrow would bring new challenges at Sterling, but they would be challenges I chose rather than problems I endured. And that made all the difference. Tuesday morning brought a phone call that confirmed everything I'd suspected about Morrison and Associates' dependence on my institutional knowledge. David, this is Tom Bradley. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. Of course, Tom. How are things going? Honestly, it's a disaster. Marcus is trying to figure out how to manage the client relationships you handled, and he's completely overwhelmed. What's happening specifically? He spent 2 hours yesterday trying to find the files for the Peterson Industries project, only to discover that most of the key information was in your personal filing system. He doesn't know their contact protocols, their reporting preferences, or their project history. That's unfortunate. David, it gets worse. Meridian Industries called this morning asking about their quarterly review, and Marcus had no idea what they were talking about. Apparently, you'd been managing their account personally for 3 years. I wasn't surprised. I'd built those client relationships through personal attention and institutional memory that existed mostly in my head, not in Morrison's formal systems. Tom, what about the Peterson renewal? That's supposed to be finalized this week. That's why I'm calling. Marcus asked me to handle it, but I don't understand their requirements well enough to negotiate terms. David, you trained me well, but I was focused on smaller accounts. I've never managed anything this complex. What does Marcus want you to do? He wants me to call Peterson and essentially wing it. David, that's a $1.2 million annual contract if I mess it up. I could hear the stress in Tom's voice. He was a capable coordinator, but Marcus was throwing him into situations he wasn't prepared for. Tom, here's some advice. Be honest with Peterson about the transition. Tell them you're taking over the account and ask for a meeting to review their current needs and expectations. Don't try to pretend you know more than you do. David, can I ask you something? Sure. Is it true that you took the Pinnacle account with you? Pinnacle chose to work with Sterling Consulting, yes? David, that was our biggest client. How is Morrison going to replace $2.8 million in annual revenue? That's a good question, Tom. Wednesday brought more calls from former colleagues, each describing increasing chaos at Morrison and Associates. Sarah Martinez called at lunch. David, Marcus held an emergency team meeting this morning. He's trying to redistribute your client accounts, but nobody really understands the relationships you built. Jennifer Walsh called that afternoon. David, 3 clients have called asking to speak with you specifically. Marcus is telling them you're no longer available, but he can't explain why their service contact has suddenly changed. But the most interesting call came from an unexpected source. Richard Morrison, the company's founder and CEO. David, this is Richard Morrison. I understand you've left the company. That's correct, Mr. Morrison. David, I'll be direct. Marcus has briefed me on the situation with Pinnacle Industries, and I'm concerned about the circumstances of your departure. What circumstances are those? Marcus mentioned that there was some kind of misunderstanding about personal time off and that you may have left in response to a management disagreement. I was curious to see how Marcus had characterized his public humiliation of a 6-year employee. Mr. Morrison, would you like me to clarify what actually happened? I think that would be helpful. I told him about the recital, the email request, the follow-up conversation, and Marcus's public statement that I wasn't important enough to warrant schedule accommodation. Richard was quiet for a long moment. David, that's not how we want our managers treating employees, especially employees with your track record. I understand. David, would you consider returning to Morrison? We could address the management situation and discuss advancement opportunities that might have been overlooked. It was a generous offer, but it was also 6 years too late. Mr. Morrison, I appreciate the offer, but I'm very happy with my new position. David, can I ask where you've gone? Sterling Consulting. Another long pause. David, I understand that some of our clients may be considering their options in light of your departure. Is there anything we can do to facilitate a smooth transition? Mr. Morrison, my advice would be to focus on providing excellent service to your remaining clients. Client loyalty is earned through consistent performance and professional relationships. What about Pinnacle specifically? Mr. Morrison, Pinnacle made a business decision about who they wanted to work with. They're professional people who value competence and reliability. David, I have to ask, did you encourage them to leave Morrison? I provided them with information about my career change and answered their questions about service continuity. They made their own decision about what was best for their business. After Richard hung up, I realized that Morrison Associates was finally understanding what they'd lost. Not just an employee, but the institutional knowledge and client, relationships that had been holding their operation together. Thursday brought confirmation that the damage was spreading beyond just the Pinnacle account. Rebecca Martinez called with an update. David, I'm hearing through industry channels that Morrison Associates is having significant client retention issues. What kind of issues? 3 more clients have reportedly terminated contracts this week. Word is that they're struggling to maintain service levels without you. Which clients? Peterson Industries, Meridian Corp, and Apex Manufacturing. David, that's over $4 million in lost annual revenue. I was shocked. I'd expected Pinnacle to follow me, but I hadn't anticipated other clients leaving Morrison entirely. Rebecca, why are they leaving? I haven't had any contact with those clients since I left. David, I think you underestimate how much your departure has damaged Morrison's credibility. When a firm's most experienced project manager leaves suddenly and their biggest client follows him, it raises questions about internal management and service quality. So they're leaving preemptively? They're leaving because they've lost confidence in Morrison's ability to serve them effectively. And honestly, based on what I'm hearing about the chaos over there, they're probably making smart business decisions. That afternoon, I received a call that surprised me. David, this is Patricia Williams. I wanted to give you an update on something. What's going on, Patricia? I had lunch yesterday with Margaret Chen from Apex Manufacturing and Robert Sterling from Peterson Industries. Both of them asked me about my experience working with you. And I told them about your professionalism, your understanding of manufacturing operations, and your problem-solving abilities. David, they were both very interested in learning more about Sterling Consulting. Really? Margaret called me this morning to say that Apex is terminating their relationship with Morrison and would like to discuss working with Sterling. Robert said essentially the same thing about Peterson. I was stunned. The client relationships I'd built over 6 years were following me not just individually, but collectively. Patricia, I had no idea they were even considering changes. David, you built a reputation in this industry. People talk, especially CFOs and operations directors. When word spreads that Morrison publicly dismissed their best project manager, it makes people question the firm's judgment. The story is really circulating that widely? David, management behavior like that doesn't stay secret. It makes clients wonder, if they treat their own people poorly, how will they treat us when problems arise? Friday morning, I was in Robert Chen's office discussing our rapid expansion when his assistant knocked on the door. "Mr. Chen, there's someone here to see you. Marcus Hoffman from Morrison Associates. He says it's urgent." Robert looked at me with raised eyebrows. "Should I see him?" "That's your decision, Robert. But I suspect this will be an interesting conversation." "Send him in." Marcus walked into Robert's office looking like he hadn't slept in days. His usual arrogance had been replaced by something approaching desperation. "Mr. Chen, thank you for seeing me. I'm Marcus Hoffman, Operations Director at Morrison Associates. What can I do for you, Mr. Hoffman?" "I'm here to discuss the situation with David Chen and the clients who have moved to Sterling." Robert leaned back in his chair. "What situation is that?" "Mr. Chen, what David did was unethical. He used inside knowledge of our client relationships to steal business from Morrison." "Mr. Hoffman, that's a serious accusation. Do you have evidence of unethical behavior?" "He took our biggest client with him when he left." "From what I understand, Pinnacle Industries chose to work with Sterling because they value continuity of service. Is that correct, David?" I nodded. Pinnacle made an independent business decision about their consulting needs. Marcus turned to me with an expression of pure frustration. "David, you know this isn't right. Those were Morrison's clients, not your personal accounts." "Marcus, those clients worked with Morrison because of the relationships I built and maintained. When you publicly stated that I wasn't important, you essentially told them that the person managing their accounts didn't matter. That was taken out of context. No, Marcus. That was you showing your true opinion of my value to the organization. Now you're learning what the clients thought of your assessment." Robert stood up. "Mr. Hoffman, I think this conversation is over. Sterling Consulting operates with complete integrity, and we're providing excellent service to clients who chose to work with us. Mr. Chen, surely we can work something out, some kind of arrangement where these clients return to Morrison. Mr. Hoffman, are you suggesting that Sterling should give up legitimate business relationships?" "I'm suggesting that David created this situation deliberately to damage Morrison's business." I stood up as well. "Marcus, I created this situation by being excellent at my job for 6 years, while you took credit for my work and treated me like I was disposable. The clients followed that excellence, not some scheme to hurt Morrison. David, if you come back to Morrison, we can resolve all of this. Marcus, let me save you some time. I'm not coming back. The clients aren't coming back. And you're going to have to figure out how to rebuild what you destroyed through your own management failures." "David, please. Marcus, you told me I wasn't important. Today, you're here begging me to save your company. Do you see the irony?" After Marcus left, Robert looked at me with a mixture of amazement and concern. "David, how bad is this situation for Morrison?" "Robert, they've lost $7 million in annual revenue in 1 week. They have no experienced project managers left who understand major client relationships, and their reputation in the industry is damaged. Will they survive? Maybe. If they can rebuild their client base and change their management culture, but it's going to be a long, difficult process." "And how do you feel about that?" I thought about his question seriously. 6 months ago, I would have felt guilty about Morrison's problems. But now, after being publicly humiliated for wanting to attend my daughter's recital, I felt something different. "Robert, I feel like justice has been served. Marcus spent years taking talented people for granted. Now he's learning what happens when those people decide they deserve better." That evening, Lisa and Emma were waiting for me when I got home. Not because I was late, but because I was home at a reasonable hour for the first time in years. "Daddy, how was work?" Emma asked. "Very interesting, sweetheart. I'm helping people solve problems and build better businesses." "Do you like your new job?" "I love my new job, Emma. I work with people who respect me and value what I do." "Good. I like seeing you happy." As I tucked Emma into bed that night, she looked up at me with those serious 7-year-old eyes. Daddy, remember when you said some things are more important than work? I remember. Is that why you left your old job? Because they didn't understand what was important? That's exactly right, Emma. They didn't understand that good people deserve to be treated well. And your new job understands that? Yes, sweetheart. My new job understands that very well. After Emma fell asleep, I sat on our back deck with Lisa, drinking wine and watching the stars. David, how do you feel about everything that's happened? Honestly, I feel grateful. Grateful. Marcus's insult was the best thing that ever happened to my career. It forced me to stop accepting less than I deserved and start building something better. Any regrets? Only one. What's that? I regret that it took me 6 years to realize that loyalty has to be mutual to be meaningful. As I sat there, thinking about the week that had changed everything, I realized that Emma's recital had taught me something important. That showing up for the people you care about is how you demonstrate their value. Morrison Associates had never shown up for me, but Sterling Consulting had, from day one. And that made all the difference. Monday morning of my second week at Sterling brought a phone call that would turn a personal workplace dispute into an industry-wide conversation about management and employee respect. David, this is Amanda Foster from the Denver Business Journal. I'm a reporter covering local business and employment issues. Do you have a few minutes to discuss a story I'm working on? What kind of story? I'm investigating reports about management practices and employee retention at local consulting firms. Your name has come up in several conversations. I was immediately cautious. Ms. Foster, I'd prefer not to comment on my former employer. Actually, Mr. Chen, I'm less interested in company-specific issues than I am in broader industry patterns. I've spoken with several professionals who describe concerning management behaviors that may be affecting employee retention across the sector. What kind of behaviors? Public humiliation of employees, dismissive attitudes toward work life, balance, failure to recognize employee contributions. Does any of this sound familiar to you? I realized that someone had already told her about Marcus's comment at the office. Miss Foster, can I ask who you've spoken with? I can't reveal sources, but I've confirmed certain incidents with multiple witnesses. Specifically, I've heard about a situation where a long-term employee was publicly dismissed as unimportant for requesting time off to attend his child's school event. There was no point in denying it. That's essentially accurate. Mr. Chen, would you be willing to provide context about your experience? I think there are important lessons here about management practices and their consequences. We talked for 30 minutes about workplace culture, employee retention, and the business impact of poor management decisions. I was careful to focus on industry trends rather than attacking Morrison specifically. Mr. Chen, I understand that several clients followed you when you changed firms. What does that suggest about the nature of business relationships? I think it suggests that clients value competence and professionalism, and they notice when those qualities are disrespected by management. Have you seen other examples of this pattern in the industry? I think many professionals have experienced situations where their contributions were undervalued, their loyalty was taken for granted, and their personal needs were dismissed as unimportant. Tuesday, Amanda called back. Mr. Chen, I've done additional research and a clearer picture is emerging. I've spoken with former Morrison employees, current industry professionals, and several business owners who have worked with the firm. What kind of picture? A pattern of management behavior that prioritizes control over collaboration, that treats employee loyalty as an entitlement rather than something to be earned, and that has resulted in significant client losses and employee turnover. Miss Foster, I hope you will be fair in your reporting. Mr. Chen, I'm committed to accuracy, but I think the business community needs to understand the real costs of toxic management behavior. Wednesday morning, the article was published online with the headline, Local Consulting Firm Loses $7 million in Revenue After Employee Exodus. I read it, with a mixture of anxiety and satisfaction. Amanda had done her research thoroughly. The article included details about Morrison's client losses following my departure, quotes from anonymous former employees describing the company culture, industry expert commentary about the business impact of poor management, a direct quote from Marcus defending his leadership style, But the most damaging section focused on the incident that had triggered everything. Sources describe an incident where a 6-year employee was publicly dismissed as not important for requesting time off to attend his daughter's ballet recital. The employee, who managed several major client accounts worth millions in annual revenue, resigned the following day. That kind of management behavior sends a message about company values, said Dr. Sarah Martinez, a workplace culture expert at Denver University. When you publicly humiliate someone for prioritizing family, you're telling every employee that personal life doesn't matter. The article also included a quote from an unnamed client. We followed our consultant to his new firm because we work with people who understand what's important. A company that would dismiss someone for attending their child's school event doesn't share our values. Marcus had provided a defensive response. Morrison Associates remains committed to serving our clients with excellence. Personnel changes are a normal part of business, and we're confident in our ability to maintain high service standards. But Richard Morrison's quote was more revealing. We are reviewing our management practices to ensure they align with our company values. Employee retention and work-life balance are priorities we take seriously. By noon, the article had been shared over 300 times on LinkedIn and was generating significant discussion in business groups. Comments ranged from support for my decision to leave, to criticism of Marcus's management style, to broader discussions about workplace culture. Tom Bradley called me that afternoon. David, did you see the Business Journal article? I saw it. It's all anyone's talking about here. Marcus is furious, but he can't really deny what happened because half the office heard him say it. How is the team handling it? Honestly, people are questioning whether Morrison is the kind of place they want to work long-term. The article makes it clear that talented people have options. What's Marcus's response? He's trying to do damage control, but it's not working. 3 more people have updated their LinkedIn profiles, and everyone knows what that means. Thursday brought a call from Rebecca Martinez. David, have you seen the follow-up coverage of the Business Journal article? What follow-up coverage? It's been picked up by 2 industry publications and a regional HR blog. David, your story is becoming a case study in management failures and their business consequences. That afternoon, Robert Chen called me into his office. David, I want you to know that this media attention has been incredible for Sterling's reputation. We've received inquiries from 12 potential clients since the article was published. Really? Companies want to work with firms that value their employees and treat people professionally. The article positions Sterling as exactly that kind of organization. I hope the attention doesn't become a distraction. David, it's the best kind of distraction. We're getting business because we're known for treating people well. Friday morning brought an unexpected call. David, this is Richard Morrison. I wanted to follow up on our conversation from last week. What can I do for you, Mr. Morrison? David, this media situation has become problematic for Morrison and Associates. The article and subsequent coverage have raised questions about our management practices. I'm sorry to hear that. David, I want you to know that we've made some changes. Marcus Hoffman is no longer with the company. I was surprised, but not shocked. I see. We're implementing new policies around work-life balance, employee recognition, and management training. David, would you consider returning to help us rebuild? Mr. Morrison, I appreciate the offer, but I'm very happy at Sterling. David, we could offer you Marcus's position, operations director, significant salary increase, equity participation. It was exactly the kind of offer I'd dreamed about for years at Morrison. But sitting in my Sterling office, thinking about the respect I received from Robert and my colleagues, I realized I wasn't interested in inheriting someone else's problems. Mr. Morrison, 6 months ago that offer would have been everything I wanted. But now I'm building something new with people who valued me from day one. David, what about the media situation? This negative coverage is affecting our ability to attract new clients. Mr. Morrison, that's a consequence of management decisions that were made long before I left. Changing those decisions is the only way to change the coverage. But surely you could provide a statement supporting our efforts to improve. Mr. Morrison, actions speak louder than statements. If Morrison genuinely changes its culture, that will speak for itself. After he hung up, I realized that the article had accomplished something I'd never intended. It had forced Morrison to confront the consequences of their management failures and make real changes. Whether those changes would be lasting remained to be seen. That evening, Emma asked me about the newspaper article. "Daddy, Mrs. Patterson said you were in the newspaper." "That's right, sweetheart." "What did it say?" "It talked about how I changed jobs to work for people who understand what's important." "Like going to my recital?" "Exactly like that, Emma." "Good. I'm glad people know that you're a good daddy." As I tucked Emma into bed that night, I realized that the most important audience for this story was the 7-year-old girl who'd trusted me to show up for her recital. She'd learned that her father was someone who valued what mattered most, and that was worth more than any job title or salary increase. Salary increase, salary increase, salary increase, salary increase, salary increase, salary increase.